Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial, we're going to go ahead and learn about how to create a server-side session in Flask. So I was building a simple application today, and I was wondering, I was having a global variable. So let's say I have a global variable. Currently I just have a let me just show what I have currently. I just have a simple a route that returns a hello world. So if you go to the website, and you can see it's returning hello world right here, right? So let's say that I have a global variable called message here. So I have message, and this is just a string of hello world, just like that, right? So instead of returning this, I'm simply going to go ahead, delete this, and return message. So this is going to return to me hello world. So let's check if the server is running. It is, and if I refresh this, it's going to return to me a hello world right there. So I was having a simple application like this, and I was using a global Python variable. So this variable is a global, right, because it can be used within any function, and all the sessions, all the requests, the different requests share this variable. So this variable is not thread safe, meaning that if maybe you're using this inside a certain function, if a user modifies this, then it's going to change for all the other sessions that come after. Or if a user is trying to use a certain value, another user makes another request, and a thread will be created, and that thread is going to override this variable. So it is not global variables in Python in Flask are not thread safe. So we can also go ahead and specify here. You can say that trading equals to true. Let's make sure I keep a comma there. So you can say that trading equals to true, but by default from Flask 1.0 and above, all the server is traded by default. So even this is going to work as usual. So if I refresh this, everything works. So let me just actually refresh this again, and then refresh this. You can see it also works. Okay. So by default, these global variables are not thread safe at all in Python, meaning that one request can modify it and need to change the other data that is being used by another request. So the best thing to do, according to my research, I went on Stack Overflow, just researching how people got around this problem. They got around this problem by using what is called a session and a server-side session. So I went ahead and learned about sessions. So in this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to use sessions for your different projects. So let's get to it and get started. So please kindly consider subscribing, liking this video, and sharing it with anyone who you think might find it helpful. So kindly go ahead, hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell, and also hit the like button. Okay, that will be a great help to me. So yeah, let's get started to create a session. And to create a session, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. So I'm going to use a very simple example from the that I saw from the official documentation, but I'm going to modify it to fit our needs so that you guys can understand better. So I'm going to say set underscore session, and this is going to be a variable that sets the session. So I'm going to say session. So first of all, my bad, we need to import a couple of things first. So we need to go ahead and import a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to say from Flask underscore session. I'm going to import session, this, and also from Flask I want to import session, just like that. But before we can import this, we need to install Flask Session. So let's go to the official documentation of Flask session, and you can just go to Google and search for Flask Session, and then the read the docs.io, and then you can get this official documentation. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go ahead, clear this, and then install it right here. So I'm going to install Flask Session. So it's going to go ahead and install Flask Session for me, and that's done installing. So we can go back in here, and you can see that error is gone. So from Flask Session, we're going to import the session, and from Flask, we're going to import session. So it's going to set the session, and it's going to enable us to get the data and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and say, and then we're going to say session underscore type. The session type is going to be the following is going to be a file system session. So we're going to create a folder here called Flask underscore session, and that's where we are going to store files for managing our different sessions. Okay, you can also use the if you go to your documentation, you can use the different configuration for your setting. You can use Redux, you can use Memcached, MongoDB, and SQLite. If you are using all this, you can go and read about all this if you want, depending on which technology among this one you're using here. So I'm using the file system, so I'm going to copy that and just go and paste it here. So paste that there. So great. Once we have that done, I'm also going to say app.config. So config, and I'm going to say config.from object, and you're going to simply say underscore name right there. Then the name, right? So then the variable. Okay. So once we have that, I'm going to create the instance. So I'm going to say session, and I'm going to simply pass in the app right there. So that's all we need to pass in. So now we have created a session. Let's go ahead and try to utilize this session. So we have a variable called get session. So let me just call it, let's give it a route, say set set, and we're going to pass in, it's going to expect us to pass in a string variable. So I'm going to say a query parameter, a query argument. So with string, and I'm going to call it value, just like that. Okay, I kept this in the wrong place. So let me just cut it from here, move it from here, and paste it here, and close that off. Yeah. And then in here, we're going to expect value to be passed in. So we're going to expect a string to be passed in as a query parameter, and you're going to access it from here. And what you're going to do, I'm now going to say the session. So I'm going to say session, which is from Flask that we just imported, this right here. And you're going to simply say session, and then you're going to say let's say that value. Let's say that this is going to be, so it's going to be more like a dictionary. So it takes in a key and a value. So you can say let's say key, and the key is going to be the value that we got from the user. Okay, so the key and then the value. So whenever you want to access this section, you're going to be using this value key. So once you get that done, I want to return the user return. I'm going to return a simple let's return a h1. Let's say you can even return a normal text if you want, but I just want to return a h1, and just say okay. And then make sure that I close off that, and then it's going to be h1, I close off that. Yeah, so you're going to return a html h1 tag, simply saying okay. So how can we check if this session has been set or not? So we're going to have another function. We're going to say app.route and you're going to simply pass in the following in here. We're going to say get, and this is going to be /get /, and then what you're simply going to do, we have a function here called get underscore session. And this get session is not going to take in any value. So what you're simply going to do, we're going to say stored underscore session. It's going to be equals to session dot get. So we're going to get we're going to get this key value that we set. So we're going to say key here. In case it fails, we're going to return no session was set. Okay, just like that. So once we go down here, I can just go ahead and return. Let's return this. I'm going to return an f string, and then this contains a h3 element tag, and I'm going to say the stored session. So here stored session, and then I close off that, and then here, and this is gonna be a h3, then close off that. Yeah, so if you go to session here, you can set the session, and here we can retrieve that session. So this, I actually forgot, this is going to be a decorator, so we have to keep the add simple. Yeah, so if I go to set session and provide in the session value, that session is going to be set, and if I go to get, it's going to return to me the session value that I just stored in there. So let's go ahead and try this out. So let's go ahead and start the server. So we have an error here, so let me see why I got that wrong. So we're going to say string and then value. Okay, we didn't close off this, so close that off, and then clear the terminal, and then run that again. So the server has started. So if I go into my browser and then I refresh this, we get so if I go to, let's say, get session, right, you can see you have this right set here. So if I go in the my server is already started, right? So if I go in here and try to get this, it doesn't work. So let me just go to /get, and it says me a 404. The reason we're getting a 404 is that we have to keep a backslash here as well, so we have to also keep a backslash to match that. So once we have that done, I can just go ahead back to the browser and then refresh this. So it's going to return to me no session was set, because we didn't set any session. So let me just zoom in so you can see we get no session was set because we didn't actually set any session value. So let's go ahead and say set, and I'm going to say hello world. Okay, world, and then you can just press enter. So if you press enter, you can see we get back okay, and the session has been set. Okay, so if I go back here and then get rid of all this and then type in just get and / if I try this, you can see we stored hello world in our session. So this session is going to be unique for each individual that is working with your server. Since I'm running from the same host, then it's going to keep this track of the same session of me. But if another computer with another different values access the web browser, then it will have its own session being maintained on the server. Okay, so this will keep our value application from being thread safe from actually suffering from kind of this thread safe method of using a global variable inside of Flask. So that's how, if you want to use a global variable, it will suffer from, it is not thread safe, right? So it's going to suffer from different race conditions. So always use a session to handle whenever you're trying to share a single variable across all the functions inside of Flask. Use a session and do not use a global variable. Okay, so that's all for today. And if you look closely, you can see we have that value, these two files right here, and they are used to keep track of our different sessions. You can't really read, so you can see the session that we have here, hello world, and this is what you are getting right here, hello world, right? So you can see these two files are used to keep track of your sessions and other stuff like that. So yeah, that's all I wanted us to discuss today in today's tutorial. So this is how you can use sessions in Flask and avoid using global variables in Flask, because global variables are not thread safe. Okay, so guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial so far, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated when I upload new videos on web development, data science, computer vision, and other stuff like that. So kindly consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, and keep safe. See you in the next one.